Hello and welcome back to a child-friendly introduction to photography with me, Bill Welsford. This time we're going to be looking at movement in our photography and pictures, looking at sports and action, photographs and activities, and we're going to show that in our pictures. Quite a tricky subject, and it takes a bit of practice and a bit of skill, but it's worth doing, and obviously ultimately you'll be able to take these pictures better than most other people, so you'll have that advantage. Okay, so let's briefly split this into two types of picture we're going to be doing today. There's two different ways of doing this for different reasons. Firstly, on the left hand side, we're going to be deliberately showing some movement which will come up as blur in the pictures. This will show you a subject moving and will give some action to the picture. And on the right hand side, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to freeze the action. So something might be moving at a speed, and we're going to freeze it, make it as sharp as possible to show the dynamics of that particular activity. Okay, so there's two separate ways of doing this. Firstly, we're going to deliberately showing some movement. Okay, so we're ultimately taking still photographs, not movies, but we're going to show some movement in the picture. Okay, so we're going to be, if you want to show something blurry in the background, for example, like this picture, we're going to be focusing on the subject, get them kind of either not moving or still, and show that they are fairly static, and the background's moving around them in this particular case. The cameras tend to average themselves out into average settings, so we're going to use that idea for a deliberate effect in our pictures. The subjects will look still or static, and the background will look blurry. Okay, this is another example of someone moving around quite quickly. This can be tricky. This requires a bit of practice and skill, which we'll be doing in a minute. You'll be following the action with your camera, so we'll be doing something called panning or tracking or following the subject in the camera frame, and then taking the picture to show them moving around. Now, as you're moving with the subject, the subject will appear less blurry or a bit sharper than the background. The background will go all blurry because you're moving the camera quite a lot as you're taking the picture. Try to get a good composition. That can be tricky. We can alter that later. And if you find it a bit tricky, you can half press the shutter. That can lock the focus, and then it will be easier to take a picture as required following that. Okay, so that does take a little bit of practice. We'll be having a look at that in a minute. Back to the action freezing. Okay, this requires quite a bit of practice. You'll have to. It's helpful if you understand what's going on in the activity or sport to predict where the action might take place. You're going to be timing is very important. Obviously, composition is still critical as well. And you may have to try. There are some cameras which have special modes or settings that we can explore. Okay, we'll move on to that now. Some cameras, not all, probably not your phone, I don't think, may have something called a sports action setting. This will deliberately try and freeze the action. This will try and set a faster speed or higher sensitivity for the action to be completely frozen. That's what the high ISO means. It's a kind of high sensitivity which this sensor will try and freeze the action in your sports pictures. So you may want to have a try of that if your camera or equipment has that facility. Okay, so briefly, you can get some very good results very quickly. These are some pictures that were taken in my after-school photographic club. The one on the left wasn't exactly what I was asking for, but it's still a very good effect. It's nice and blurry, and obviously you can tell the camera's been rotated during the shutter. The middle one has got a bit of blur on the side, as I say. The goalkeeper's hands and feet are moving a little bit, and then the goal on the right is completely frozen frame. Some good shots there. So if you want to move on and develop your skills even further, we will get to improve our pictures. This is it's quite a challenging topic. The challenges on the left, let's go through them. It can be tricky to get used to. It takes a bit of practice, but fortunately on the right now, this is a very useful and interesting topic. Okay, and human beings do like running around in sports and things like that. Good for wildlife, etc. All sorts, really. Second on the list, the action happened too quickly for me to take a picture. Again, start with trying with slower moving subjects, and maybe walking or kicking a ball or standing or kicking a ball while standing, or get used to the activity to kind of predict what's going to happen next. Right, the action might be too far away, not allowed on the pitch or by the track or near the moving cars or whatever it is, obviously. Well, you need to sort of predict that, maybe prepare a little bit more possibly, and find a nice good place where the action will unfold in a reasonable place in front of you. Or I can't hold the camera still enough. That's another, because obviously we're used to standing on both of our feet. If you kneel down and maybe put your elbow on your knee and maybe support your camera or device a bit more steadily, maybe tuck your elbows in if you can't kneel down, or pin yourself against a wall or something to give yourself a bit more extra support so your camera isn't moving around while you're taking the picture. And lastly, I press the shutter button, but the picture won't take. If you try getting used to half pressing the shutter speed, it acts as a kind of lock. It can take a bit of getting used to. Then you can press the shutter halfway, and what they call the action, that's the difference between you pressing the button and the picture being taken, will reduce, and you'll get the picture at the right time, because timing is quite an important factor of this. Okay, so that's kind of it, and we just need to get on with practicing, really. So as a summary, after you've obviously taken all your pictures, have we looked at things differently? Have we noticed anything differently? Are our pictures now better? Hopefully we'll have gotten a bit of advantage of other people trying to take a similar type of picture after having a bit of practice and using a few skills. And most importantly, really, you can use this practice these skills and use them when you go and do something very interesting, like go on a trip or have a project or go on holiday or something like that. You know, you can be prepared now to take moving pictures in 2 different ways. Okay, well, good luck with that, and I shall see you out on the next one.